The Business Standard, 12th of April 2023, will Chinese money and diplomacy prevail in the Middle East? Using her financial weight, China brought Saudi Arabia and Iran to the negotiating table and enabled a pipeline to connect them across Central Asia, circumventing her Malacca Strait dilemma. Longtime strategic ally of the United States, Saudi Arabia joining a security and economic alliance led by China and Russia seemed nearly unthinkable a few years ago. However, the monarchy ratified a Memorandum of Understanding last month, giving it the dialogue partner position in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is the first step toward full membership. When China and the Soviet Union were working to defuse tensions over their shared border in the 1980s, the SCO's founding principles were established. Two parties, the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, became five with the fall of the Soviet Union. The SCO was established in 2001 when the so-called Shanghai Five decided to go beyond demarcating and demilitarizing boundaries to foster greater regional cooperation. The Shanghai Five are currently members of the SCO, along with India, Pakistan, and Uzbekistan, with Iran scheduled to join this year. Armenia, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Egypt, Nepal, Qatar, Sri Lanka, Turkey, and currently, Saudi Arabia are among the SCO's 9 conversation partners. 5 other nations have followed their lead. Afghanistan, Belarus, and Mongolia are the 3 nations with observer status. The SCO is neither a purely commercial partnership nor a military alliance akin to, say, NATO. Instead, the SCO Charter places security cooperation at the heart of the group's mission, and SCO members frequently engage in joint military and counterterrorism exercises. For instance, joint counterterrorism exercises will occur in the Russian region of Chelyabinsk in August. The decision by Saudi Arabia to join the SCO is a success for China, which has been working to increase its geopolitical power and challenge the current international system dominated by the United States. This effort's diplomatic component has been essential. For instance, Saudi Arabia accepted a pact to re-establish diplomatic ties with Iran that were negotiated by China less than 3 weeks before it endorsed the SCO memorandum. It shouldn't be surprising if China soon focuses on mediating a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. But the economic might of China is what makes such diplomatic successes feasible. It is not a coincidence that Saudi Aramco revealed on March 27 that it had paid $3.6 billion for a 10% stake in China's Rongsheng Petrochemical Company, Limited, 2 days before the Saudis signed the SCO memorandum. Saudi Aramco has pledged to supply 690,000 barrels of crude oil daily to refineries in China, up from the previous ratio of more than 4 times as much petroleum to China as to the US. Saudi Arabia seems willing to sell its allegiance for the highest price. In addition to the SCO, the kingdom has formally requested membership in the BRICS, which includes Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa and is dominated by China. Goldman Sachs initially envisioned the BRICS alliance as an asset class, but it quickly developed a life of its own. It first appeared as a trade alliance in 2006, it has been trying to establish itself as a geopolitical rival to the G7. It has even discussed the introduction of a unified currency that would serve as a substitute for the US dollar. Given that China accounts for 72% of the BRICS total GDP, the group may decide to start making trade payments in renminbi, maybe in an extended form. Even if it hasn't happened, China might follow its practice with Russia and settle its hydrocarbon imports from Saudi Arabia in yuan. Given that China consumes 15% of the world's oil and accounts for 10% of its trade, other oil-producing nations nearby may be coerced into a similar arrangement. China won't likely force the US to leave the Middle East anytime soon, not least since the US continues to be a primary security partner for the majority of the Gulf states. US military bases are still located in Saudi Arabia. Last month, the two nations finished their first combined counter-drone drill at Riyadh's brand-new military testing facility. 2 Saudi Arabian airlines announced plans to order 78 aircraft from US manufacturer Boeing in the same week, with options to purchase an additional 43 aircraft. US officials have downplayed the significance of Saudi Arabia's decision to join the SCO, saying it was long overdue. Still, they have voiced concern over the uptake of Huawei 5G technology in the Middle East and urged the United Arab Emirates to close down what they perceive to be a Chinese security facility. However, the US is concerned about China's expanding influence in the Middle East. The U.S. warns that collaborating with China could damage nations' ties to the U.S. Saudi Arabia believes that the U.S. has harmed bilateral relations. U.S. President Joe Biden vowed to declare the country a pariah over the murder of writer Jamal Khashoggi during the 2020 election campaign. Even though Biden has now changed his mind, several necessary restrictions, like those on the availability of weapons, remain in force. Additionally, U.S. Senators Mike Lee and Chris Murphy have introduced a privileged resolution that would mandate that the State Department look into Saudi Arabia's internal human rights policies and involvement in the Yemeni conflict. If the report is not submitted within 30 days, the resolution will halt all security aid to the kingdom. Thus, Saudi Arabia's inclination toward China reflects its displeasure with U.S. policy. And even though the Saudis have used this tactic for political haggling, being used to something does not make it safe. Supporting China's attempts to group Middle Eastern nations into political and economic blocs may have significant geopolitical repercussions.